Hi everyone, and welcome back to the George Collection. I'm Rachel Rightside Blonde. I'm shooting this video on June 8th, which happens to be my birthday. So I thought I would read from the Happy Birthday, Mr. President issue from September of 1996. And I just noticed something today, and that is the number 68 is on the cover of this magazine on the headline, Days of Rage, the Cops of 68 Speak Out. So I think it's time for me to read this article. The article I'd like to highlight today is called Backlash, and it's about the topic of affirmative action. So here we go. The liberals call him a traitor, but California businessman Ward Connerly slings back the mud as he leads the charge to abolish affirmative action. Traitor, hypocrite, Uncle Tom. As the point man for the California Civil Rights Initiative, CCRI, which, if passed by voters in November, would demolish 30 years of affirmative action laws, Ward Connerly has been attacked in the most personal terms. He's married to a white woman, snapped Democratic State Senator Diane Watson. He wants to be white. The sharp-tongued Connerly, who has even received death threats, is just as vicious in lashing back at opponents. He brands Watson a bigot and characterized marchers at one anti-CCRI rally as a bunch of naked women with banners saying, "Join the Socialist Party." Even the GOP icon Colin Powell holds no sway with Connerly. When Powell publicly condemned CCRI, Connerly retorted that the retired general's comments carry as much weight as a homeless person's. Connerly tells his own personal story as proof that anyone with a little gumption can make it in this country. Born into poverty and orphaned at an early age, Connerly now makes $450 an hour as a real estate consultant. He also serves as a regent at the University of California, appointed by his mentor and fellow affirmative action foe, Governor Pete Wilson. In 1995, Connerly pleased Wilson and outraged liberals by persuading the other regents to end race-based admissions throughout the 9-school university system, a decision that is now entangled in legal action. Black Americans should resist the temptation to say the nation owes us a debt, argues Connerly. Let us say that the debt has been paid and the books are closed. We will never reach that point as long as the government treats us differently. Polls have consistently shown that more than half the state's voters support CCRI. Meanwhile, petitions modeled on the California measure have popped up in Florida, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, and Illinois, as has related legislation in 17 other states. CCRI would affect not only minorities but women as well. A coalition of 150 women's and civil rights groups has sprung into action, blasting the measure as a sneaky way to enshrine the good old boys network. Jesse Jackson has threatened boycotts of any business that endorses it, but Connerly remains steadfast in his quest for a colorblind society. This quote at the end of the article is very powerful. The use of race is not inoculating us from the virus of racial hostilities, he says. It is becoming the cause of the infection. This story was written in 1996. Just a story about a black man trying to end affirmative action and trying to get black people to understand that if they really want to be treated equally, they need to get rid of these programs, these types of programs. I'll admit, in my past, I was a fan of affirmative action and programs like that. And then I took a step back and really looked at what affirmative action is. I know it's a very touchy subject, and I know at some point in my past I would have felt very uncomfortable talking about this, but I think it's time that we as a country really look at these programs from a 30,000-foot view instead of on the ground level. Because on the ground level, they look great, and they look like we should do it because it's a great idea to help people. If you look at these programs from a 30,000-foot view, it's essentially telling these minorities that they can't make it, or that they need a leg up, they need help to be able to succeed, to be on the level of a white person. And I just don't agree with that. To me, that seems racist, to look at someone and assume that they can or can't do something just because of the race of their skin. Whereas if we just provided resources to everyone and let everyone's natural gifts and abilities come forth, everyone would have a fair shot, and we wouldn't have to have these types of affirmative action programs to make people feel like they're getting a leg up. I'm a big believer in competition. I feel the best man or woman should get the job, the smartest should get the job, the hardest working should get the job, and it shouldn't be about the color of our skin or anything else like that. We as a society will never be equal. There's always going to be someone smarter than us, better looking than us, And we should embrace what we bring to the table, our natural gifts, our natural abilities, and put those to use in the best way possible. I feel the issue of race has been used to divide us and to weaken us, but at the end of the day, we're all Americans. And I'm not insinuating America is perfect, because it's not, and I know we have a ways to go in several different issues. But my hope for this country is that we all wake up and we start looking at each other as Americans instead of instantly seeing what divides us. I also hope we realize that if we want this country to unite, it's going to come down to each of us. That does it for this episode of the George Collection. Thank you so much for watching. Here's to year 39. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.
Magazine, George, which is a hoot of a magazine. I thought you were a lawyer.
I was.
What happened?
Well, we decided, actually taking a cue from folks like yourself and you around the 1992 election, that there was an opportunity here to change the definition of a political magazine. Certainly the way Americans were accessing information about politics and politicians was changing. Candidates were appearing on late-night talk shows, on talk radio, on sitcoms, and there was a kind of a leveling process. And while the rest of media clearly had caught up with that, we felt that political magazines per se hadn't.
Your mother was a hell of an editor at Doubleday.
That's what I hear.
Would she have liked George?
I think she would have.